How's it going, everybody? If you're new to the channel, my name is Matthew, but I am also known as Odyssey64 on the Odysseus Dimension here on YouTube. Some of the veterans of my channel know that a long time ago, before I started playing Miitopia, I started a long-forgotten series on the channel known as Animal Crossing: The Making of Midgar. For those of you who don't know, I decided to wipe my entire island clean and recreate Midgar from Final Fantasy VII. I so far only have 3 or so videos uploaded on the series until I recently decided to remove them for a purpose that will be clear soon. As time went on, I got somewhat frustrated trying to get everything the way I wanted, so I put it off. Then Miitopia, Metroid Dread, and other games came along, and I decided to push away my idea until I watched the Animal Crossing Direct that released recently. Without further ado, this is my experience in The Making of Midgar and Animal Crossing: New Horizons. March 7th, 2021. It's been a while since my first couple of videos, and all I really did was upload Minecraft until Miitopia released. However, something was on my mind. I had nothing I wanted to do in Animal Crossing. I basically did everything I wanted to, then the extremely tedious stuff like getting every single fish. I watched other YouTubers to see what they've been doing in Animal Crossing, and all I saw were island tours. I would watch them and I would see huge, extravagant islands that I wish I could have made. It made my island look plain, stale, and boring. Heck, even my cousins had better islands than mine. After several weeks, I decided on something I thought about for a long time. That's right, I was going to recreate Midgar from Final Fantasy VII and Animal Crossing. I checked the internet, and I only saw people recreate either just the building in the center of Midgar, or just a small portion, not Midgar in its entirety. So, I took a chance. I asked my dad if I could borrow his Switch so I could move all the necessities I would need for this extremely stressful and overwhelming project. I would need tools, bells, and craftable items. Granted, some items, like my photo of Cookie, I kept just because I couldn't let go of the soon-to-be past life. Then I look back at the somewhat plain but warm island I put so much time, effort, and bells, a lot of bells, into, and closed the game, and deleted my save. With the resources I kept on my dad's island, I was ready to begin. With bells, furniture, I quickly moved back, obtained the 3-star island I needed to get the edit tools needed to reshape the island from the beginning. March 13th, 2021. After doing a lot of research on the city itself, the characters, and using a map I created, linked to the site in the description, I began to completely remove the rivers piece by piece. This took about an hour or so to completely tear them away, and to admit, I was already feeling the pressure to do this. I fully committed to completing this task, and there was no going back now. I was so exhausted that I couldn't do anything else on Animal Crossing for weeks after the setup. Afterwards, I began to completely remove all the plants and trees, which didn't take nearly as long, and then began to flatten the entire island. If you've done this kind of thing before, you can agree with me by saying that this took literal days. 3 whole days. Not to mention with school and work in between. Well, school and homework specifically. After a while, I finally took a really long break, and Miitopia finally released on the Switch as a port, and I focused on that. It was great. Everyone on my channel loved the series, and my tier list has the most views on the channel. It caused my channel to grow so much, so I can thank you all for that, but I digress. Let's continue on. Week of October 17th, 2021. After 7 months of procrastination, I finally began to realize all I missed, and then I saw it. The Animal Crossing presentation. It announced so much with the Happy Home Designer as DLC. I was so excited, like they brought back the sleek set from New Leaf, Froggy Chair obviously, and added new items like a gaming setup of all things. But I realized something. My island was in no shape to incorporate all the new stuff, and probably never will. Sadly, I realized if I don't finish this island, I won't be able to enjoy Animal Crossing at all. Also, with us moving, I got distracted with other things and my setup changed as well, so I never got the time. Until this week. Because this week at my school was SED, or Spiritual Emphasis Days. Basically, instead of doing actual schoolwork, we would have a series of field days at a camp with activities, food, and other cool things. After Monday and Tuesday, of course, when I would have 2 tests. Other than that, those 3 days would be the days I grind out Animal Crossing and finally complete the project I've delayed for so long. I want it to be done by at most November 4th, which was the final free update for the game released, and although cramming probably weeks and or months of work into about 2 or so weeks seems unhealthy, you seem to underestimate the sheer will of a teenager when he has his back against a wall that has spikes, with the floor opening up with lava. Anyway, I began where I remember leaving off. I tore down the island to the first level and began making the walls around the island. So I used my dad's switch to let me use his Animal Crossing island to grind for more resources. Haha, nope. Totally didn't do that glitch where you drop your items, wait 2 minutes, power off the switch, and come back to get the duplicated items. But anyway, over those days, I finally finished the main layout, and about 2 or so days afterward, I finally finished the wall. I sat back, saved, and quit, and took a much-needed break. I was exhausted. After working the most on Sunday and Saturday, and when I dozed off, I had a dream of my past life, but not the same place I remember. It was fall, and the position of the houses were different from what I remembered. I saw myself strolling around, almost judging me for what I have done, what I plan to do. I looked back at myself. I wasn't even myself. I'm basically a different person. I continued past myself and decided to pay a visit to my old house in my past life. Then I got stopped by Cookie, which while talking to her I felt more guilty than I ever felt before. She didn't notice my guilt, probably because it was a dream, so after sheepishly walking away, I reached my house, spent a little time in the main room, and decided to quickly ascend to my old room. I simply gazed at it all, and a deep sorrow encased my heart. The picture of a forgotten Star Road warrior, my old guitar, my bed, the ring I wanted to give Cookie, everything moved me to tears. I couldn't bear to stay anymore as I ran outside, and when I awoke, a tear went down my cheek as I stepped out of bed and began the next phase. Week of October 26, 2021. After I finished using custom patterns and hundreds of Zen fencing later, it was time for the next phase. I moved all of the buildings near the place I needed them to go, and after a while I finally created guest characters to fulfill the roles of Cloud, Aerith, and Tifa. Since I'm cosplaying as Rufus, obviously. After grinding Nook Miles over that weekend, I was able to pay off their moving fees and grant them access to Pro Designs to give them their signature Final Fantasy VII Remake outfits. But I needed to get more for Cloud because he needed a specific hairstyle. October 30th to 31st, 2021. Over Halloween weekend, my goal was to both finish laying out custom paths I found and start decorating the outside. However, the fatigue set in. After playing nothing but Animal Crossing for days, I could barely figure out where I wanted the paths to go. I was more anxious about that update. The days were closing in. During Halloween Day, I spent all of my time finishing up what I had started, and to put it into perspective, I started at around 10 o'clock in the morning and ended at around 10 o'clock at night, with maybe an hour or two for breaks. It was getting late, but I finally finished putting the pads down, and the last thing I needed to do was give 98,000 bells to each of the extra characters I created, and had them ask Tom Nook to expand their houses, and with that I left the rest to him. By the time I finished, I spent a little time going over what I needed for a test that day, and went to bed, knowing that I would only have 3 days to finish the project. The final days. The first day, I mainly focused on cloning symbol panels, and I had a full inventory and some extra, and began to place what I had available, and from what it seems to me, it only looks good when they are lined up horizontally instead of vertically. So that saved me time and items, so I definitely think I'll be able to finish this. Nope. It is currently November 3rd, 2021, and I have to make a hard executive decision. I have to ditch my simple panel plan. It was going to take too long for me to clone all these things, and with time running out, I needed to cut corners if I was going to not only decorate my other island homes, but the island as a whole. Thankfully, I have lots of simple panels to spare, so I can use them to make apartments and have other cool things, and with this being the last day, I don't get homework on Wednesdays, so I'll have plenty of time to skate by. My plan after school was to A, finish editing a video I did with a new microphone, and B, buy a lot of items to decorate the houses and for the other characters. As of right now, the references in the character houses are the most important part, like the reactor, Seventh Heaven, and Eric's house. I have to do a lot tonight, but at least I have nothing school-related I have to do today. Maybe I may have to stay out quite late tonight. I may have to give up on cloning and just buy the items. But for the sake of my sanity, I have to finish this. Once I got home and spent some time just playing a game with my brother, I cracked down on decorating in industrial areas and slums and constantly searched for the items I needed long into the night. Then, the unthinkable happened. The update came out sooner than I expected. Time was of the essence now, and I had to improvise. I bought all I could. I scavenged and finally updated the game to download custom sprites and place them where I needed to go. After such a long time, it was finished. Although subpar, I was proud. The industrial and normal resident areas were just as I imagined, but the slums area could have had more detail. The church I thought was terrible, but, well, you can't have everything. I finally got to bed and asked Luna to make the new dream for me. The dream address is on screen now if you guys want to visit for your own leisure. For perspective, this is what the map looked like when I started, and this is what it looks like now. Yeah, it changed a lot, and by the time I finished this morning, it was 12:45 a.m. on November 4th, 2021. The struggle was over. I could finally rest. Again, just before we end this off, I just want to say I wanted to give a little shout out to my dad for helping me make all of this possible, because although it wasn't necessarily what I wanted exactly, having the extra island to drop off the stuff I needed for this island really made this all happen. So again, I can't thank my dad enough for this, especially since we also figured out how to get a lot of money really quickly as well. So, yes, I could finally rest. Or could I? Everything I wished for in this update, I couldn't do. I lost everything, and for what? Fame? No. I was jealous of other islands. And I wasn't sure of what I wanted, so I decided to wake up from this false reality. And when I did...